Welcome to this evening's presentation, which is about the mysterious world. The mysterious world of BaseCamp. The place where, if you're into it, all your knowledge is found. And if you're not into it, you're going to start wondering why you're paying your subscriptions, because most of your subscription is going towards the lovely things which are hidden in BaseCamp. And so, I'm going to pass you on to not one, but two Barbaras who are here. Only one is speaking, of course. Who will divulge some of the mysteries and interest there is around Toastmasters BaseCamp. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much indeed, John. And tonight's webinar really is about trying to get you to be able to navigate BaseCamp a little bit better, because there is so much information that you can get. And I think so many people find themselves in a position where they are doing speeches. They're not entirely certain what they're doing the speeches on, and they certainly haven't found the resources that would be incredibly helpful for them if they did. The idea this evening is I'm going to do a very short little presentation about where BaseCamp sits in the system of clubs, Toastmasters, etc., because we've got access to quite a few things, but we don't always know the importance of each of them. We tend to stress too much importance on some things which don't necessarily help, and not enough on the things that do. So that's one of the things I'm going to try and iron out for you, is where BaseCamp sits and why it is actually important. Then, if the powers of technology are with me this evening, and loads of fingers crossed, I'm going to put a live video or live video feed from BaseCamp, so I can move around BaseCamp and show you what I think might be useful, and you can chip in if you want me to go in any particular direction or any particular thing you want to know. Now, first of all, I am not the world's expert on BaseCamp. I've just been playing with it for about 3 years, so I've got a little bit of information, etc. So there might possibly be something you ask me and I don't know the answer. Maybe John will, because he's sitting in the background there. So to make a start, I wanted to find out, first of all, where you all are on the BaseCamp familiarity. So, John, thank you, John. Can you just have a look at the poll and answer what is nearest to what you tend to use or don't use BaseCamp for?
Well, most people have responded. We have one person who doesn't use it, one person who's looked at it and hated it, two people got stuck, and everybody else uses it all the time.
Oh, right. So we have a pile of experts here. So this can be an expert panel instead, that if I get stuck. So, right. Okay. Now I have one lovely slide. Well, two couple of slides here, which I'm going to attempt to be very clever and share the screen with. You're my guinea pigs on this, by the way, because I don't usually play with this sort of stuff. So what I am going to do is move my picture up to the top a little bit because it's less in the way there. Right. Now, this is usually what happens to most people with BaseCamp. They feel as if they're sort of stuck in a maze and going round and round and never actually getting anywhere. There's all these things floating around there called different things. There's curriculums, transcript, paths, pathways, levels, evaluations, you name it, whatever there is. And that's where they feel they are sort of stuck and they're not quite sure where they're actually going with all this. So this could be called the slide from hell, but I hope you'll see the logic of it in a minute. It's where BaseCamp sits. As I said, it could be called the slide from hell, but I hope you see the logic here. You are this lovely club member up here in this blue circle, when you joined Toastmasters, you joined, first of all, your club. And then you also joined Toastmasters International. The club bit's easy because the club bit has a meeting management system. And that meeting management system begins with E, and I'm sure a lot of you use it. And it's incredibly useful. However, since we've got pathways, it's not quite so useful because it does tend to give you just a little snippet of information about each level of your path, and that's it. And I'm sure, well, I know for a fact that there are a lot of people who just take this and just go with that and don't go any further. But BaseCamp is where you actually access the learning part of pathways. And in order to get into BaseCamp and to get to pathways, the first thing you have to do is to register your path. Now, I'm assuming everybody has got their path registered. If there isn't anybody, if there's somebody on here who's not registered their path yet, just stick a little note in the chat, because we can just show you how to do that if you really want to go back to that stage, or we can move on from there. So there's two interesting things about this. Your learning now is based in two different places in a way, because you've got all the learning material, all the theory in BaseCamp in Pathways, and you have the practical part in your club. So that practical part is evaluations, it's speeches, it's doing the roles, all this thing that gives you the practice at what probably most people came to Toastmasters for, which is to learn to speak a little bit better. The other stuff sort of comes with being in Toastmasters for a little while. But the new thing is that your learning is over here in Pathways. And this is one of the things I think that some people have found a little bit difficult to handle because it's online. It isn't, not see this properly, it is not a nice bit of paper. That is a Pathways project. You can't really see it very well. It is a Pathways project, which you can print. So for those people who want to have something that they can walk around with, sit in the armchair with, isn't a laptop, then you can print off your project there. Right, can people just for a minute put in the chat what particular thing it is that they're interested in finding out tonight? So I've got some idea of where I can go, where I need to go. That's an interesting question from John, because as you see on this lovely diagram of mine, the VPE is BaseCamp manager. The other person who is a BaseCamp manager is president, and one more, which is the secretary. And they can see into BaseCamp, they can approve things, they can look at things in BaseCamp. Other members, the only thing that another member can see, they can actually see your profile if they want to send you some feedback or you want to send them some feedback. But other than that, nobody else can actually access your learning materials. They're yours. Toastmasters does have a way of checking on BaseCamp in a way, but at the moment the two aren't linked. Not linked in a way that, let's put it this way. If somebody has a Pathways level, their VPE is going to enter that into Club Central on behalf of the club and on behalf of you. You need to complete that level in BaseCamp. But BaseCamp doesn't necessarily notify Club Central at the moment. Whether that changes in the future will remain to be seen. So there is a chance that things can get lost in the system, shall we say. Right. What else have we got on here? Excuse the slight noise coming, but I have a very, very temperamental mouse which decides periodically to freeze on me, like it is now. I just love technology. Questions here. How to plan your speeches according to pathways. How to correct mistakes. Oh, now that's a BaseCamp manager's question. How to correct mistakes. There are some mistakes you can correct, but some you just have to get in touch with Toastmasters and get them to do it for you. Oh, thank you, Christopher. Ideas on how to give a similar presentation. New VPE. There's a badges feature, which I have no idea what it's for. Okay, right. Let's give this a go and see if I can possibly stop sharing the screen and bring up the video or the live Toastmaster. So let's stop this for a minute. And
remember to tick the box for system sounds at the bottom when you're doing the sharing, or we won't hear it.
I don't actually want any sound on it, do I, John? Because I'm only on BaseCamp, and so
okay.
I haven't ventured into sound yet. That's going to be quite an interesting. Right. Okay. Can we see BaseCamp in Toastmasters International in front of us?
Yeah.
Good. Right. I have already logged in, and I think possibly by the comments so far that most of our audience know how to get into BaseCamp. So let's go into pathways, go to BaseCamp. Well, I was practicing this afternoon. This part of Toastmasters decided to tell me that I couldn't access that because I wasn't a paid member. But that's not overly helpful, to be honest. Right. As you can see, I have actually got a couple of clubs on the go and also as a BaseCamp manager. So I'm not going to log in as a BaseCamp manager at the moment. I'm just going to log in as an ordinary member. Right. Anybody who's completely new to this part of the screen, they're getting much better. Initially, when Pathways came out, it didn't tell you an awful lot about how to negotiate it. And just as a little side story, I've got a friend who is actually a web designer and engineer and all this sort of thing. And he's always helped me out in the past with things that I can't do on my computer. And persuaded him to enroll in Pathways. And he started one evening, tried to do this, had this frantic phone call. How do I do this? I'm stuck. Aside from spending 5 minutes gloating because I knew something about computers that he didn't. It's very simple. You have to follow the instructions in BaseCamp. If you don't follow the instructions and you try and up the system a little bit and go around and miss bits out, then it will act up on you. Now, somebody asked a question about badges, etc. That's the badge bit, but that bit I want to come back to at the moment, because first of all, I'm going to do the, and I think I am over a bit that I did want to tell you about, which is the account setting. Because this is where you can update any roles that you've done. Because part of the Pathways requirements does require you to do roles at certain stages. So this is where you can update where you can do those. Let's get rid of that now. One of the additions that BaseCamp and Pathways is sort of permanently being monitored. I don't know how many people there is on this committee, but there is a committee which is permanently looking at ways to improve BaseCamp and pathways and things. And they have taken quite a lot of notice, and they have improved things quite a lot, including this interface here, which is much easier to negotiate. So you've got paths and learning, which is where you are going to go to actually negotiate your own learning, and you're going to find this interface with your paths listed here. Now, there are lots and lots of resources that are available, which I'll show you in a minute. Anything you access will go in here. Anything at all. You can, of course, mark it complete and finish. As you see, I haven't done that very just recently. But for the moment, I'm going to use just engaging humor, because that's one I haven't really started. I've only played around with this as a demonstration for a couple of people. So engaging humor, first of all, you've got your actual modules right the way through. No details, but at least you know how many there are and what they are on. Level 3 can cause a load of problems for people, because they look at it and think, oh, there's about 13 projects on there, but you only need to do 3 of them. So that's one thing cleared up. Right, open curriculum. And this takes you on to where you have your various projects to access. First project, obviously, is Icebreaker. I'm assuming everybody has done their Icebreaker. If anybody hasn't, wave at me. Right, now to access your projects, you can click on here if you want to. And you're going to get how much time you've used for your project. Well, in this particular instance, none at all at the moment. That's the other thing I need to tell you. Something I fall foul of frequently. There looks like a lovely, nice blue menu up here. If you click on the blue menu, nothing will happen unless you click on the drop-down menu. Open curriculum. Launch. And this is where the actual meat in the sandwich, shall we say, of pathways exists in BaseCamp. This is where all the learning materials are. This is your equivalent of a written manual. And this is what you can print off yourself if you need to. This tells you how to navigate right the way through BaseCamp. And navigating through the projects in BaseCamp is where some of the problems crop up. Let's just go on to the first. Side arrows obviously move you from side to side. I don't want to be too basic with this, but on the other hand, I don't want to miss out on anybody who probably isn't that clear on it. There are lots of pathways, gives you lots of directions, and this is one of them. Ask you if you want to print something, you want to do something. Don't. Carrying on through. This, if there is one thing that everybody goes away with tonight, it is to do all of these screens at the beginning and all of the screens at the end. Because I can absolutely and utterly guarantee that if you miss one of these, it won't process your level completion, and it won't tell you why it won't process your level completion. And this is a tearing your hair out thing if you don't know what you're looking for. What they're trying to do is quite simply ask you to assess your skills before you start doing this project. And that's very simply by going from screen to screen and just clicking a number up here where you think you are answering those questions. And as I said, you have to go through all of these screens. You know when you got to the end, when you get the grayed out one. So you follow on with what sort of thing you're going to learn, how you're going to negotiate some of this, what your goals are, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into all the intricacies of this. But small bit of video, which I doubt that you've heard because the sound's not connected. The early projects here, they give you all sorts of help and assistance. So this is an icebreaker. So it's going to give you a worksheet. If you've never done a speech before, it'll give you the worksheet so you can know where to start and where to go through. Gives you lots of instructions about your speech, what you need to do, topics, openings, bodies, conclusions, all this sort of thing. Right. And you come across these, which are little learning snippets in here. So you learn something up there, go to the next bit, next bit, next bit, and so on. And these are the things you need to be careful of with pathways, that you don't miss them. Overcoming anxiety, yes. Everyone should read that one. Evaluating yourself. It's always a good idea to ask yourself how you've done, because most people actually know what mistakes they've made. They do tend to be incredibly hard on themselves, usually. Look at what you've done, assess it, change it, alter it, whatever you need to do to it. Complete your assignment. That means pretty much do your speech. Because BaseCamp brings in a lot more variety, you do have the option sometimes of doing projects that don't necessarily require you to make a speech. This gives you a rough idea of what your evaluation resource is going to be like. Now, and this is also the screen where you get to print your evaluation resource if you want to, print your project, worksheet, whatever you want to print off on there. And now your skills after. Same thing applies. Go through screen by screen by screen. I haven't clicked off some of these because I want to use this one again for something.
And so this one is done after you've done your speech?
After you've done your speech, that's right. That's how it's supposed to be done, John.
That's how it will be done then.
Because I think there have been occasions where people will come on to BaseCamp and think, oh, I can't get the level of completion. I need to whiz through this, just like I whiz through it now, without actually reading any of it. And that defeats the object, because as John said at the beginning, you paid your money to join Toastmasters. So this is where you're going to get what you're paying your money for, by reading all this and digesting all this information on here. One little snippet about this: if you will get this congratulations screen just by doing what I've done, not answering any of the questions. Don't be fooled by it, because you think, great, I've done that. And you will go back to your pathways curriculum, and guess what? Nothing's changed. Because here you've got your level, 0 completed, 0 completed, 4 to do, no percentage done, no percentage done up there because you've missed something out in project. So it's go back and do it again. I didn't say to you earlier on that these are quite handy to see how you're doing. This is your level percentage for the whole of your path. This is just for one level on here. Now, one of the things that, this is one of the things that if you go away with nothing else, you take this home with you tonight. Level completions. When you have finished all of these projects, they will go up here as completed. However, you will get out of this, you've got 4 projects to do. You will have 3 completed and 1 still to do. That is this level completion. This is the bit that allows you to produce a certificate. Toastmasters don't send you certificates anymore, not just for ordinary levels. So this is your only proof in a way that you've actually done what you said you've done. Now, if I go back to one of the other, this one I've got, I can actually show you, which is probably this one is the better first. Right. When you've done all those, this bottom menu here will appear. And you get the same as here, launch, activate. I can't remember exactly what the wording is on this one. But all you have to do is click that. What that does is sends a message to your VPE and tells them that somebody has completed a level. Your VPE then comes along and does their bit from their side of BaseCamp and can either reject or submit your level. And then you will get this nice little change in your menu here, which says view certificate. How you handle the certificate is entirely up to you. It's going to be sitting here anyway. You don't have to print it if you don't want to. You can print it for your own benefit if you want to. Or what I do is I tend to print them for members and use it to present either online or live, so they've got something. But this is incredibly important because there are several things that you need to know that you've got a level for. We are heading up for contest season, and I think we've still got our chief judge with us, haven't we? And he knows that there are a couple of qualifications for contests, both for judges and for some speakers. Both of those are level 1 and level 2 completed in pathways. Now you need something sometimes to perhaps prove you've done it. Your VPE could well have put it through onto Club Central, but it might not be completed here. So if Toastmasters decides to say, we can't see your level completion, so you haven't done it, where is your proof? This is what's going to provide you with a proof. Once you've printed that certificate, they know that you've actually completed this path.
And I'm afraid your chief judge would have to disqualify you if you didn't have the right paperwork. He wouldn't want to, but he would have to. It's that important.
That is very, very true. And that is something that I think has happened on occasion. Well, not actually disqualification, but pretty well near it, to be honest.
I can tell you that a finalist in the district competition was disqualified, and we had to. Toastmasters disqualified them because they hadn't had all the stuff updated. The other thing to add, if I may, is that once you've done this and you've ticked your little box, I believe it's an email, goes to the email address of the VPE.
Yep.
Have a little word with them at your next meeting. Make sure that they have done their end of the system. Don't rely on them to just do it. Check, because you need it. You need it signed off so you can go on to do the next levels. This is it, and this is the problem, I think, because there are different things that have to be completed. It is not joined together as yet. So many people think that they've done their speech or whatever it is in their club. It's ticked off on Easy Speak. That's it. They don't need to do anything else.
Barbara, probably I missed that part. So when you complete your speech and then you have your evaluation, what the evaluation from your evaluator, the piece of paper need to update on this pathways?
You have the choice of whether you do that. You don't have to load your evaluation on to BaseCamp. You can keep it in the printed. I'm afraid I'm a wee bit of a Luddite like this. I like my printed evaluations with the projects all together, and it's going to be a nightmare to clear out all my pathways and stuff in the end. But you don't have to load them up there. The facility is you can if you choose to, but that part of it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not your certificate is granted. What else was it about that? There's a couple of things judging wise we've already said. level 1 and 2, and the same for the international speech competition. And that's the only one where it actually is important. The others you don't have to have any qualifications to do, so don't panic, you don't need it for everything.
Can I just comment that if you have been a member a long time and have done 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator Manual, that probably also counts. So it's irrelevant to pathways, but and what you have said is completely correct for people using pathways to qualify. But there are people who will have done things in the old manuals.
There are. I think there's the one thing about that, isn't there, Chris, that you've got to have stayed a member. If you've left and come back again, you can't rely on your old CC qualifications, as far as I can remember.
I shall. That's an interesting question which we should perhaps discuss offline. I didn't suspect. Well, I don't think that that's the case, but that is not the way I had read the rules. But I will reread them.
You're the chief judge. I'll go by what you say. I'll I stand corrected on that one, Chris. Right. Okay. So that is one of the reasons why it is really important for you to have your certificates and to complete your levels. That is the one thing that really is the reason for this webinar, is because people are not doing this. Right. Okay. Now, one other thing that is new in Pathways and BaseCamp that there wasn't previously is you can now bob backwards and forwards through the levels, and you can see what is coming up in other pathways. And one thing that has changed quite a lot as well is when you get up to level 5, you can finish level 5 by doing the projects they've got on there, and you've got level 5 completion. That is finishing level 5. It's not completing your pathway. In order to complete your pathway now, they have taken Reflect Your Path out of level 5 and put it as a path completion. And then there is a separate path completion, level completion sort of thing at the end of that. That then ticks off that path, complete path, as being completed and finished. Now, Pathways is very kind to you, as BaseCamp is very kind to you, because it does actually archive things for you now, and you don't even need to do anything about this, because if you look here, you've got active, completed and archived. Completed should be a couple there. Archived, I have no idea what it's archived, to be honest. Pathways Mentoring Overview. That is one of the things that you, talking about levels 1 and 2, it's another thing that people seem to have missed, is the Pathways Mentoring pathway, because it is a separate pathway, but it's not particularly well defined anywhere else. You can't, when you can't do it as a separate pathway. It's only unlocked for you when you finish level 2. Then it will miraculously appear, and you can do it if you choose to, but not very many people do. Right, okay. One thing that some people might come across is external speeches. You can arrange for an external speech through this. And that is going to take you have to let your VPE know that you want to do a speech outside of your club. And there's this nice form which you can fill in and tell them exactly what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be doing it, etc. Email it to your VPE, tell them what you're going to do, put any bits of paper, any agendas of where you're going to do it on, etc. Send it to your VPE. They will look at it and say, okay, I'll let you do that. You then complete your project, complete this, and it will turn up in your paths of learning. I'm not going to complete all this at the moment.
Barbara, for this external speaking, right, whether you can update what as one of your project, even you are not doing within your club.
You can do that within Easy Speak if that's what you're thinking of.
No, it's just like just now you say you can update here and send the email to your VPE. You're going to do a speech outside your club. So if you do speech outside your club, can that speech be part of one of your project within your pathway?
Oh yes, yeah. You can just pick which path. Say for example, we got. Let's just open up engaging humor here. And say, for example, you wanted to do connect with your audience at another club. You could put all those details, that's the project you're going to do from this pathway, and put that in that form to send to your VPE so they know exactly what it is. Once it's all completed, it will go through as part of your pathways, the same as anything else. Pathways and BaseCamp will actually deal with that internally. So long as you make certain that you click that you've done it and it's submitted, your VPEs authorized it as well, that will go through. So yes, it can be part of your ordinary path. And because I think because at the moment we've all been online, etc., and we've had the facility to go to all sorts of different places and different clubs, and that is incredibly useful in a way, because you could go somewhere and do a speech and they may not belong to your meeting management system, so it doesn't go through the system, and then you've got to chase it up, etc., etc. So you've got that facility in here to let your VPE know that you've done a speech outside of the club.
When the club member take part area or district competitions, would it be part of your speech project work?
Do you mean that actually doing the speech, or taking part in some other way, or organizing it, or
No, taking part the competition.
that's, to be perfectly honest, I don't know the official answer to this one. I think if you've taken part in the competition, how I've worked previously, if you've taken part in a competition and you haven't gone through that level, then yes, you can put that speech in as part of your path, but please bear in mind that a speech is not credited unless it is evaluated with a verbal and a written evaluation. So if you are thinking about using a speech that you're in a contest with, and you think you might want to do it, ask somebody in the audience to do a written evaluation for you, and then give you a private evaluation afterwards. So then you can put it through. I'm not so sure about whether if it's a speech that you're carrying on using right the way through. I don't know whether Chris has got any thoughts on that one.
Perhaps we should discuss it at the end.
Yeah, that sounds actually quite logical. Because I suppose there's a possibility of doing the speech again in another club or something or other where you could maybe use it. But I think it's something that you need to sort out between your VPE and the people in maybe the contest chief judge or whatever, to say, can you do this? Is it okay? All right, okay, how are we off for time? One thing I wanted to mention here is tutorials and resources. So I'm not doing what I told you to do, am I? Wait for the drop-down menu. Now, actually, BaseCamp is very good now because it has lots and lots of resources that will tell you how to do pretty much anything. But it also tells you anything that you really need to know, accessing certificates, accessing speech evaluations, which is what I'm up on here for. You've got a little video and you've got a transcript of it. So it's pretty much got everything you are going to need on here to find out how to do things. Now, evaluations, there is always, I don't know whether you're really good with evaluations and the evaluators have always got the forms, but my experience, that doesn't always happen. So if all your members are enrolled on Pathways, which of course they should be, then it's easy for any member to access in their own pathway an evaluation form. This is great because you can pick which language you want. I'm going to pick the one that I can speak. I wouldn't possibly be able to answer any of these probably in any other language. But every single evaluation for every single project is in here. A whole lot. You can pick any of them, including that one, which is a generic evaluation resource if you can't find anything else, like evaluation and feedback. This is an example. You see, I've been playing around with some of these, so I know I've already completed it, but I'd like to do it again, please. Okay. Your evaluation form. You've got options with this. You can download it, you can print it, and it's clickable. So you've got lots of options with your evaluation form.
Yes, when we had physical meetings many years ago, I'd always have 2 or 3 of these evaluation forms in my pack.
Yes.
And also made sure that Sergeant at Arms always had 3 or 4 of them in their pack as well. So if somebody needed one at the
Yes,
last
I
minute.
did. I've lost. She lost the place on here at the moment. I'm going to stop that. Right, I'm going to stop that at the moment, and I think we're on 17:48, so I think we can do some questions now. You also get evaluation forms from EasySpeak. That depends on whether I think you've actually got them. I've never got an evaluation form from
EasySpeak. For those listening to the recording, then this is where it ends, and if you didn't, everybody else who's here, we can join in some Q&A.
Yep.